Feminists, you guys no longer have a leg to stand on. As you guys are all about smash the patriarchy, and that's why men's rights advocates are so radical. I hate to break this to you, but the patriarchy has actually been smashed. Would you like some proof? So let's look at the question. When exactly was patriarchy smashed? Feminists always ask this question in a very condescending way, as if they get to decide when equality has happened, because it would seem to me like being able to judge the boundaries of equality, that in itself is very much a privilege. If I may so kindly point your attention to this percentage of college degrees received by gender, historically women were underrepresented in education. In 1972, legislation was passed to correct this, and guess what? Smashing achieved in 1981 as women increasingly started surpassing men. And would you look at that? As of 2020, 61% of women surpassed 39% of men. What about women's health, as that was similarly neglected, so the American government formed 4 designated offices to fix these imbalances? Patriarchy smashed! And would you look at that? U.S. Congress, 2021. Men over the past decade have shown poorer health outcomes than women across all racial and ethnic groups, as well as socioeconomic status. And of course, no patriarchy conversation would be completed without the talk of pay gap, right? Did you know that in America, Asian men and Asian women are both paid more than white men? Are we smashing that? Or just for white men? But even if we break down the word patriarchy, it really doesn't make any sense, does it? Because it literally translates to the rule of father. I must ask, what rule of father doesn't get automatic rights to their children? How is the father the ruler when he gets absolutely no say in when he has children? He has no form of birth control except for a fucking condom. I mean, what kind of ruler gets depicted in society's TV shows, sitcoms, and movies as the dumb one? Feminists, you guys spend way too much time comparing the majority of men to the top 1%. The 1% that you guys are supposed to hate so much, that's kind of funny how that's your dating standard. So what part of the patriarchy are you smashing? Your husband that pays for all your stuff? Sure, 87% of all US billionaires are men. But remember how I said that choosing how we measure equality is a privilege of its own? Sure, there are far more billionaire men than there are billionaire women, but trying to compare the two sexes when it comes to who's a billionaire is like comparing 2 grains of rice, because the reality is most people, if not the majority, big fat portion of them, just don't live like that. Being able to measure what is equal and what isn't is a privilege when women feel like an overpopulation of men in Hollywood is severely oppressive, but refuse to acknowledge the fact that majority of healthcare professionals, therapists, and psychologists being women, that might negatively affect men. Might be oppressive towards them, considering therapists have openly admitted that they have different views on men's feelings and women's feelings. Men and women have very different needs. We feel things emotionally differently because of the way that society treats us different. But sure, you want to measure equality by this stupid fallacy, so let's do it. In America, there are 639 billionaires that are men. On a graph, that looks like 87% of American billionaires being men. However, over 250,000, that makes 70% of American homeless being of the male gender. Isn't it funny how you find 639 billionaires evidence as oppression, way over the 250,000 men who are experiencing homelessness? Funny how you don't see that as evidence of matriarchy. Selective compassion? I think so.
What are you about? Who writes the script for this? Absolute garbage. Garbage on the pop. What are you getting on about? You couldn't make it up. Sexual marketplace in modern Matrix is a complete mess.
A lot of you guys have been asking me...
Nobody's been asking you
I think I'm hot.
Not really.
Oh, why?
Way many more people attractive here than you.
What's not hot about me?
Your personality and your voice.
$1,000 or you get to spend the day with me. Which are you choosing?
I won't be offended.
$1,000.
1,000.
There are job interviews where a woman dresses very modestly, but goes home to the boyfriend, dresses up with flesh showing to go out with friends, says don't tell me what to wear, patriarchy can't control me, more importance on dressing for the job, for the boss, than for her own man, and men accept this. Now we have women selling nudes to pay for cancer treatment. What are you going on about? All over the show.
I make around $350 a year.
No way. What's your job?
I upload my feet pics on Fun with Feet.
You upload your feet pics and you get paid for that.
Yes.
Sex education instead of love or family education to lower the vibration of the human animal. Feminist agenda's a trick to get women out of the house so the government and the internet can raise your children. We've covered this before. I don't know what I'm even doing here. I've become a journalist for nonsense. I've really got better things to do. I mean, I've got some things to say, but I think all this is just to weed out the normies.
The more a country's like, stay in the kitchen, the better the food comes out of the kitchen, right? It does. It comes out more delicious that way. Have you ever eaten food from a country where the women are equal? Oh, get the fuck. Get it away. Get away. What is that? Equality cuisine? Move it. Move it. Move. Nobody in this room has ever said, you know what we should do for dinner tonight? Canadian. Never been said. Never once.
Find a wife or woman whose mission is to serve God. A woman who is not hiding her trauma behind a superficial image, but a woman who has learned to embrace her primal feminine nature through healing. A woman who is kind, feminine, and of high moral character. This type of woman will understand the daily sacrifices you make to build and maintain your kingdom under God, and for that reason, her feminine energy will honour you as king, and your masculine energy honours her as queen. The modern woman has been indoctrinated into depopularization and neutrality. It has become increasingly difficult for her to fall into her feminine energy naturally. She has become programmed by a victim consciousness and fueled with masculine energy to do anything a man can do, not need a man, or to take down the patriarchy. Her default state is now masculine. She doesn't embody modesty, humility, or softness. This woman cannot be the queen in your kingdom. She will destroy everything you've built and worked for, because she is not there for you, but only for the fruit of your labour. She wants to live a lifestyle of freedom without the spiritual discipline needed to be centred in her feminine polarity. She will choose money over family, luxury over God, and attention over modesty. She'd choose being a boss chick over simply being a mother to your children. She essentially wants to be the king too. She expects all the power of a king and all the benefits of a queen.
There's two reasons why men are feminized. We live in a femme-centric society. Men are being raised by women. When they're not at home, then they're in school being taught and raised by women in a world whereby everything is catered to women, whereby the messaging from the media is don't be toxically masculine, it's okay to cry, it's okay to show your feelings. They're like pushing all this like feminine energy onto men, and I don't think that is just a coincidence. I think the reason they're doing this is because it's the men that go to war and it's the men that fight. So when tyranny comes, it's the men that go first. If you're able to control the men and you're able to feminize the men, then you're able to control society to a much greater extent. You know, especially with the last 2 years. And if we lived in a society whereby like men were more masculine and they weren't busy with their rainbow flags and switching genders and all that, I don't think that like the last 2 years would have gone as far as it did.
If you want to take over a planet, okay, if you want to completely take over a planet, the first thing that you have to do is you have to take out the alpha males or the strong males from the planet. Because the strong alpha males protect the divine feminine.